Hello and welcome to Social Media in Finance 2021. My name is James Saywood Anderson and I will be your host for today's spectacular feast of social media insights in the financial services space. So, what do we have in store for this year's event? Well, in 2021, our core focus is centered around employee advocacy, creative excellence, and investigations into the exciting world of crypto. We are bringing the world's greatest minds in one virtual format to help you get the best insights to these themes, which will dictate the direction of your social media strategy for the year ahead. There is no other social media forum in the finance world as big and as prestigious as ours. So kick back, get your pens ready and prepare for this year's event. Right, on to our first presentation of the day. Now, I know these two very well because they are team members of Social Tree Global. So let's go and see who they are and what we're going to speak about. So here we are, Sophie and Max from Social Tree Global. I'm really looking forward to hearing your presentation today. The floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Max Hanna and I'm one of the co-founders of Social Tree, and I'm thrilled to be here at SMIF 2021, and today I'm going to be talking about how you deploy an effective employee advocacy program in your company. We are going through a cultural revolution. We are literally living in history, and it's never been a great opportunity for marketers and finance brands to really harness the power of their employees in their organizations. Brands are being asked to act more human, to communicate with more empathy. The way that brands communicated in the past is no longer good enough. People are expecting more. And if you look at finance brands in particular, they have some really unique challenges. There's a massive competition for talent. People are going to fintech brands. They want to work in cool, modern startups, and finance have this image of being a kind of old, outdated brand, and there's a real challenge out there to get the best talent. Finance brands also have a challenge with trust to get brands and customers to trust them more. And one of the best ways to do this, to gain trust, to compete for talent, is to put your people at the heart of your communications. So here at Social Tree, that's what we're all about, is helping brands harness the power of their employees and to humanize the way that they communicate. And we've been thrilled to work with some amazing brands such as UBS, who are doing a great talk today. We've worked with companies such as FIS, State Street, around this area. And today I'm thrilled to be joined by Sophie, who's our head of content, who's going to also be taking you guys and girls out there through some of the case studies and best practice that we've seen work in the industry. So what are we going to cover today? Well, first of all, we're going to look at some data. So we've actually analysed 250 companies in the finance sector, the 250 largest companies with the largest market cap, and analysed over 45,000 posts on LinkedIn to see what's working, what's getting the best traction. We're then going to also talk about why social media advocacy is important. We're going to actually show you a case study with Sophie how to activate that in your company, and then we're going to finish with some Q&As. So let's look at the data. Like I said, at Social Tree, we've analysed a vast data set. It was a very time-consuming, laborious process, but we've done it so you guys and girls out there don't have to. So what did we find when we analysed this data? Well, we found that the best engagement almost always comes from the people in your company. So you can see here examples of posts where it's got humans at front and centre of the communication. It's getting hundreds of likes, if not thousands of likes. The days of putting out content from your corporate company page, in all honesty, are almost over. People don't want to engage with soulless corporate content. They want to engage with human posts. Again, brands are being asked to behave in a more human way, and those that do it are getting the best results. So looking at the 250 largest companies in financial services by market cap, we found that the average likes for posts was 201 on LinkedIn. But looking at the data set and looking at the list of companies, we found that only 72 out of the 250 companies on LinkedIn achieved this. We also found, through looking at the data set, that the average followers for each company was over 340,000. And then again, looking at the average, only 66 companies actually achieved this. Looking at the frequency of posts for each company, we found that the frequency of posting over a year was 208. and only 88 companies out of the 250 met this criteria. And looking at the entire three conditions, we saw that only 25 companies actually met the three conditions and the three averages we've stated here. So only 10% of companies out of the 250 largest companies in financial services by market cap actually met all three conditions. So 10% of the companies are really leading the way, but the vast majority are falling behind. And we saw 66 companies were below the average on all three measures. So there's an absolutely massive opportunity out there for finance brands to do better, and there's only 10% of companies are actually leading the pack. So let's jump into the theory. So now we are being asked by consumers, by partners, to humanize our brands. The old ways of communicating, of corporate content, with soulless content is behind us, and it's important more than ever that we are humanizing our brands and building trust. You'll also find that CEOs who are engaging on LinkedIn, who are posting, outperform their company page. You can see that time and time again, that the leaders of companies are getting more engagement consistently than the company page. So it's time to put your people at the heart of your comms. And the old saying is true, people buy from people. Your people are the best assets that you have. And it's time to activate your staff on LinkedIn. And the problem is, however, that sustaining an employee advocacy program on social is hard. It takes knowledge, and it takes cutting-edge knowledge of what's going on in the industry. Things are evolving, and the game is getting harder as time goes on. The second thing that is a challenge is time. It's very time-consuming to really lead an employee advocacy program. You can be dealing with tens of thousands of staff, so you're going to need the time to invest in this to really make it work. You're also going to need technology, and that's a massive challenge. And with tools like LinkedIn Elevate kind of disappearing off the radar, technology is going to be a vital important tool to really gain competitive advantage and to win the game of employee advocacy. And then finally, you're going to need support. Many organizations are beginning to deploy an employee advocacy program, but we've seen time and again it's down to one individual. They need support. One person can't sustain the change needed to really boost the activity of their employees in the organization. So what does this look like in practice? Well, at the heart of it in this model, you can see that it's got employee advocacy, and what it's about is generating brand exposure, so getting your brand out there. And then what this enables you to do is ensure that your brands and services are being seen and heard by the right people. And it's about making sure that you are embodying the company culture at all times. So now I'm going to hand over to Sophie, who's going to share some insights into our training and how we've supported organizations to make this change.
Hi everyone. By way of introduction, I am Head of Content at Social Tree. I joined from a journalist background at CNBC News. I'm here to apply those storytelling skills to optimize LinkedIn content. I am now going to provide an insight into our training in a little more detail. So I'd like to break down the training into 5 core objectives. First core objective is increased activity on all profiles on the training course. Now, what do we mean by that? Simply, this refers to the noise that your digital avatar is creating on LinkedIn. This activity can be incredibly multifaceted. Obvious examples would be consistently posting, interacting and engaging with your network, listening to your network, direct messaging, and mapping out leads. Of course, there are many ways in which you can interact on LinkedIn, but those are just some key examples. Now, next up, we have improvement in social selling index score. This is a score curated by LinkedIn made up of 4 components: establishing your brand, finding the right people, engaging with insights, and building relationships. There is a reason for focusing on the SSI score. So the stats show that social selling leaders get better results on LinkedIn. In fact, social selling leaders create 45% more opportunities than peers with lower SSI scores. And in addition, 78% of social sellers outsell peers who don't use social media. So we can now proceed to the next objective, which is 100% profile optimization. This is what I like to call your LinkedIn book cover. This is the front cover that you are selling to get people to pick up a copy off the shelves. Social media is all about people buying from people, so LinkedIn optimization is vital. Network growth. So this is your LinkedIn database. Your LinkedIn network is incredibly powerful as it gives you access to a plethora of individuals on a global scale. I like to think of LinkedIn as your virtual business card. The same way pre-COVID and before the familiarity of LinkedIn, you would attend numerous lunches, dinners, and networking events to meet new clients. LinkedIn now allows you to do that too, but in a much more targeted way. LinkedIn, of course, does not replace in-person networking, but it certainly supplements it. If you picked up 50 business cards at a networking event, chances are you don't remember half of them, and you then still have to cold call those individuals or reach out again with their contact details. By contrast, LinkedIn allows you to forge a network that you can nurture, grow, and develop over time to achieve the best outcomes. Now, moving on to the final objective, that is the development of thought leaders who can act as social media ambassadors. Through training, your employees can fully understand how to harness LinkedIn for themselves and wider community objectives, which can ultimately result in leads. Measuring is important for training so that we can track progress and see what is working, what isn't working, and create LinkedIn connoisseurs. Measuring success provides goal setting for the individuals on the training, but also provides insight for myself as a trainer to know if there are any gaps in knowledge and to make appropriate recommendations from there. First off, as I have previously referred to, the SSI score is a really important component for the training and a measurement for progress. This is because it shows how effective you are at establishing your professional brand, finding the right people, engaging with insights, and building relationships, and this score is updated daily. I'd like to touch on these components in a little more detail. So number one, establishing your professional brand. This is about completing your profile with the customer in mind. Become a thought leader by publishing meaningful posts. Number two, find the right people. So identifying better prospects in less time using efficient search and research tools. Number three, engaging with insights. Discover and share conversation-worthy updates to create and grow relationships. And finally, number four, build relationships. Strengthen your network by connecting and establishing trust with decision makers. Another way to measure success is through engagement. So that is who is actively liking and commenting on your post. Is your content engaging enough? Are you encouraging dialogue? Furthermore, looking into impressions is important so that you can see how many people you are reaching and make improvements on content that performs best and do less of the content that doesn't perform as well. Finally, measuring your network acquisition shows how well you are applying the tools you are learning in the training, and ultimately is important that you are reaching out to the right people and they are accepting. So, network growth is the final measurement for success on our training. Just to wrap things up with a few highlights from a recent campaign we did with Rhymes Technologies using these measurements mentioned above. So we had two groups in this training course, one from the US and one in EMEA. We saw the overall group increase their average SSI score from 48 to 65 with an average increase of 35%. Then just to show some specific highlights from the training, we have the best score from EMEA, which was a jump to an SSI score of 79, and then in the US, a jump to 67. To round off then, I want to finish with dispelling a myth that I often get during training and with my finance clients. That myth is there isn't enough to post about on LinkedIn. Now, I would argue that this statement is a potential piece of content in itself. However, I do empathise that it can be hard to get the ball rolling without the right foundation. There is a plethora of potential content at your fingertips, but you can't just jump into creating content and building a brand on social media. It's a craft that you have to practice. With the explosion of social media, particularly LinkedIn, it's a special skill to learn to design content that ensures your brand is a dominant voice in your industry. I will now pass over to Max to see us through the final part of the presentation.
If you've created an employee advocacy program, you are an early adopter, so you're already ahead of the pack. But as you can see from the data that we highlighted before, most brands are doing it wrong. The vast majority are falling below average, 90% when looking at the largest companies by market cap. And the opportunity is once in a generation. We are literally rewriting the rule books of how brands and how corporations can communicate. And the one who scales the fastest is going to win. So the companies that can harness the power of employees the quickest at scale are going to win the battle of attention, the battle of talent, and the battle of customer loyalty. So that's the why and how you can deploy an employee advocacy program in your company. It's been a real pleasure to take you through that. I hope you found some good nuggets of information and enjoy the rest of the day.
Bravo, Max and Sophie, absolutely amazing presentation. Now, I'm sure many of you have some questions, so let's go back to the computer and I'll take them right away.